Hi, this is like you can call this a podcast, whatever. But I'm going somewhere Saturday afternoon in South Korea, um, and the traffic is like hellish, as always. And I thought I turned on my live stream because yeah, I thought I could kind of utilize this time to explain why 손흥민, Sonny, the legend of Tottenham Hotspur, has termed that week, the final week of the recent Asian Cup, his toughest week. Okay, I'm gonna explain this from his perspective, uh, because, well, first of all, because wait, I just want to like stop this thing from movement, but just turn off the video and try to listen. Uh, just nothing but like bunch of cars in my face. Um, yeah, so yeah, because he's just like, as you know, he's not very talkative. Like he never speaks for himself, right? So somebody else, like, you know, I guess can speak for himself, and maybe this time, and maybe that could be me, sort of thing. So like I had to give you a little bit of background information, before I talk about this. Well, first of all, South Koreans going into this Asian Cup in Qatar, uh, expected. There was nationwide consensus. Like people were taking, we had the golden generation, like the best squad ever. And plus the fact that, like, I don't know why media made it such a like a big deal out of this, but like the media all chanted and they were like, wow, they totally made a hype. And is a hype a correct choice? Because I kind of feel like there's negative connotation, but anyway, um, so like people were saying or believing that there's a very good chance with the the new generation, that we're going to win this. And we're anticipating the final match against Japan on the Lunar New Year Day. It was scheduled in our Lunar New Year Day, which is one of the two biggest national holidays, right? And I need to give you another piece of information with regard to Klinsmann. Then I'll get to KFA, the Korea Football Foundation. Um, Klinsmann was appointed as a head coach of the South Korean national team. And there were a lot of concern actually, because I mean, uh, it was divided, right? There were people who were like, okay, well, we're gonna, have to just kind of, we'll see, right? And then like there are other people who were concerned, raised their concern because they knew what Klinsmann did as a head coach to the past teams in Germany and in the US. So they were very concerned with his coaching style. But even these people were saying that, well, Klinsmann, there's one area of his strength, that is man management. Like he may have like he may have this like what's called like freedom football or whatever, like no tactic football. Like he is famous for uh, having no tactics, no strategy. He just lets players play, right? But when it comes down to man management, because he's a former legend himself, he's really good at like managing players, right? Um, like managing the teamwork and that sort of thing, right? So like even those opposition side believe that, well, at least like well, we can give it a try, right? We can just be like we can just like maybe, maybe there's a maybe there will be success. Maybe this type of new coaching style might work. In favor of our development, right? The Korean football, Korean national team's development. And thirdly, I need to. Wait, I have to add something. So like a year ago, he was appointed, and um, he invited like he player like the team played led by Klinsmann played other national teams, and the results are very good. And what was worse was the fact that these teams, our opponents, weren't very good either in general. They were not like top notch, like national squads like France, Brazil, and those guys. So like even against those guys, those like less, I guess, of a powerhouse type teams, our national team didn't really play well. So like people were concerned, and there was criticism, and then every time there was criticism, Klinsmann said, "Just wait until the Asian Cup, then you'll see," right? That sort of thing. So like that's another reason why this Asian Cup wasn't really good, but really important, crucial point um, for Klinsmann and for a lot of other people, right? Which of course later he totally flip flopped, and uh, at the airport interview right after he came back to Korea, he credited himself uh, saying that reaching Final Four was good enough result. That's what he said, and then he basically just flew back to America. In contrast to what he said at that interview, he said that he was gonna look at the games and he was gonna analyze it with the committee of KFA and special committee or something uh, in the following week. But he basically flew away like right away, like in what, like next day or something, or in 2 days. Thirdly, I need to get to KFA, the Korea Football Association. This organization, the name suggests, is the body that basically, it's like UN. Or no. I shouldn't say it's UN because UN doesn't have really like any power, but it overrules. It basically makes policies regarding football, and it acts like a judge, and basically it has all the power when it comes down to football, right? Traditionally, there has always been like a sort of like huge distrust between the people, the Korean people, the public, and the KFA, because the criticism was the fact that like KFA never does things right. It's so corrupt, and it never does any work. It's just and um, so like I remember 15 years ago when there was another guy, different guy, as the head of the cafe. Uh, People, there were a lot of people criticized cafe, right? And I'm not gonna get into all the details, but I'll just share one instant. Sorry, I cannot really like read because I'm obviously driving, so I'm just like chanting, right? So like I think about 6 months ago or so, last year, the KFA that's the word, pardoned the players, around 50 players who were involved and prosecuted due to a fraud scandal. They were involved in like gambling, like sports gambling, basically. Like how players, when they want to make money, they work with gamblers and they fix the match, right? That sort of thing, which is the worst crime that any sports player can commit, right? So, like, as a result, this happened about 10 years ago, I believe. And as a result, these 50 some players were banned for life from playing, professional football. Then last year, right before a very important match, I think it was like the first match, a match after our successful Qatar World Cup. Sorry. Um, yeah, so minutes before the World Cup, the first A match kicked off, the KFA pardoned these players. They let them go. So the public was pissed because this was totally I mean, what the KFA did was just totally, they acted. Okay. So that's a great example, right? I mean, what kind of government entity pardons the worst criminals right before uh, um, uh, an organized event that draws the national attention, right? The most. I mean, so this is basically a not like football association organization, but more like a criminal, organized criminal crimes, criminal uh, bunch of organized criminal group. That's how I should phrase it. So this is another chunk of information I should provide, right? By the way, to remind you, I'm driving, and yeah, that's why I'm not able to look at the phone now. Yeah. So and I'm gonna get back to I'm gonna get to what happened, right? After explaining, providing this background information, I'm gonna get back to what happened uh, according to the KFA and according to the media during that final week, especially from Sonny's standpoint, right? So well, Klinsmann, as being infamous for a coach that never does his work. I think he's only good at blaming, finding excuses, right? He's genius at it. Um, he lets players figure things out, and that's why Team Korea, if you watch their games, that's why they woke up. They seem to be waking up in the 60th minute, right? The game was always they were dead, right? And that's because their head coach never prepared them for anything. The players had to figure things out on the ground, on the field. So basically, Klinsmann's leadership was I'm gonna sit back here. I'm gonna get paid this big amount of money that's paid based on my reputation because I'm an international celebrity, and in the worst case scenario, uh, I'm gonna just I'll be fired and I'll walk away with this big chunk of money again because contract there's article saying that if I get fired, I'll get paid a lot of money, right? And I know for a fact that he did exactly the same thing to the U.S. national team. That's how he makes money. He robs, right? He signs a contract as a head coach and he does nothing, and he pisses off people, pisses off a lot of people. He makes players fight against each other. I know this happened in the U.S. national team again, while he was a head coach, and then as the contract was uh, terminated, he made a lot of money. So this is his way of invest. This is Klinsmann investment, right? I think in sports dictionary we need to have a new terminology: Klinsmann investment, right? So basically during the whole Asian Cup, the head coach didn't do anything. The players just had to figure things out, and Sonny, as a professional, as loyal, as patriotic as he is, so committed, right? He was like he really wanted this Asian Cup, this last chance. This is his like last chance he would ever win a cup as a soccer player, football player. I mean, I don't mean to like disrespect Tottenham, but I'm just saying like, uh, as of now, that's how it seems, right? I mean, by the way, Tottenham Hotspur is my new team Korea from now on. Um, so yeah, that's my love for you, right out there. Um, yeah, so like Sony was so desperate, and the head coach had no leadership. I heard that he just let the players work out at a local hotel gym while there were other people around, like ordinary hotel guests were around. That's all they did, right? So the players had to figure things out. And as the news suggested, there was division between the young generation and the older, like elder players. And also there was one group led by 1994 born players, right? So there were factions. So like Sony, like basically as a captain, had nothing, no power. He had no power because the head coach doesn't give him the power. He just like sits back, and he lets his kangin take over the national squad. You know, kangin was his guy. So Sony didn't have any power, and okay, wait, hold on. Okay, I'm just looking at my navigation. Um, so Sony felt this made like this added burden on Sony's shoulder. Not only the fact that he did not have any power because of this fucking coach, but also did the coach give some young dude who was playing like circus, like a circus, some like circus member or something, right? This guy was a circus player. I mean, not a team player, but he had a great skills. He knew how to dribble, and he was a great show-off kind of guy. What a perfect match between Klinsmann and him. I mean, you know, because things like team spirit doesn't show, right? Um, so like, okay, so Sony really must have been so frustrated, right? And also, as you know, against Australia and Saudi Arabia, these two great football teams, they played overtime. And one of the two occasions they went to penalty shootouts, right? So mentally, emotionally, physically, Sony must have been bitten. Like, I'm sure he was. And you know what? That explains why, like, the first Tottenham game after the World Cup, like, or Asian Cup, did you notice like Sony like was playing so like freshly? Like he seemed so like recharged. Ah, you know what? I know why. Because he was just so happy to be back in Tottenham, away from this bullshit, like this bullshitters. KFA, the head coach, and this scumbag, this little shit, scumbag. So like now, getting to the dinner right before the semifinal match. I don't know, like nothing has been confirmed as to details, right? Sony's legal representative, Sony's, no, not Sony's, Igangin's lawyer, Igangin's legal representative totally denies what has been reported by the media. But the media report says Lee Kang-in punched him, right? I don't think Lee Kang-in like released his official like statement to explain like what exactly happened, or none of the players really did. Because if you think about it, like you're a player, you don't want to talk about this, right? Um, so the media report says that so like ever since our great legend, former Manchester United player Park Ji-sung played for a Korean national team, there's this tradition. Right before an important match, the players get together after dinner and they talk about tomorrow's match. So Sony carried on the legacy. So he called on the squad, the players to play together after the dinner. But then Lee Kang-in and his couple other buddies, the younger crowd, right? They had already gone to play ping pong, and so the elder guys were very frustrated, and Sony was also, obviously he's in disbelief. He couldn't believe it. So I know there's one side of the story says like Sony was more hard ass about it, and I know there's other side of the story that's like he was just trying to like calm the players down. He was just mitigating the situation. But somehow either Lee Kang-in punched Sony because you know names were being called, they were shouting, and Sony apparently grabbed E by his collar, the collar or something. Or, according to the other report, one of the elder players tried to, I guess, fight Gangin or punch him or whatever, right? Trying to like physically get involved. And Gangin like also fought back, and Sony tried to mitigate. And as a result, he broke his finger. And later on, the elder players went to Coach Klinsmann and asked him to not play Lee Kang-in in the Jordan match. But Klinsmann, he needs a player like Lee Kang-in, right? Very flash, very show off, because he's a fraud. Fraud con artists showing off is like the must, right? Because they have to hide the truth. So they will resort to anything like that flashy, that show off. And Lee Kang-in perfectly matches this description. I mean, I don't know what his intention was. Maybe Klinsmann was just being mindless. Maybe he wasn't even thinking. So basically, so like next day, uh, we had other great players coming up from bench, but the national team Klinsmann went ahead with same old starting lineup. And then, as you all know, we for the first time in South Korean football history, we had 0 goals on target against Jordan. I mean, I don't. Once again, Jordan played great. I think it's Jordan is probably like very underrated, and I especially I like the head coach Jordan head coach. That guy was a great. He was a great leader. What for sure is they totally under achieved, right? And then like according to the latest report, there are photos now. Like there are photos during this match, or is it? I think right before the match, Lee Kang-in and his buddies, yeah, the younger crowd, are playing some water bottle game on the ground on the field. But Sonmin was like saw this as his life situation. So we lost. We had this loss against Jordan, and the following day, people were pissed. And Klinsmann had this interview, you know, and then the day after, I believe Sonheung-min flew back to England, and that's why this Asian Cup, the final week of this Asian Cup, must have been the toughest week from Sonheung-min's point of view, right? I have so much more to say, but you know what? I'm gonna cut it so that you can come back later. So stay subscribed, be subscribed, like this video, leave a comment. Thanks for watching. You know this, and you have a great weekend. Bye bye.